Thanks a lot in advance, Peter, for giving me this brief space to talk a little bit about several important topics for our academic community. I'm very grateful with you, and yeah, let me start with the framework that I had prepared for the interview. But in advance, thank you very much for your time. I know how tight your agenda is.
Thank you. No problem.
In advance, I would like to give you a brief description about the role that I'm performing in this moment and about the institute that I'm representing today in this interview. So, as you know, I left my banking job in Colombia a past couple months ago to enroll the University of Colorado Denver 1 year MBA program. Enrolling my MBA program has had been one of my long-term dreams since I finished my bachelor in economics 7 years ago in order to boost my academic profile and my professional pathway. While in the program, 2 months ago in October, I was privileged to start working for the Institute of International Business here in Colorado, Denver, and the Center for International Education and Research, which is called CYBER, to work as a graduate student supporting research projects and other administrative activities within the department. Just to give you a little bit more background about what the institute does and its background and its renownedness along the United States. The Institute for International Business provides opportunities for students to learn outside of the classroom through various events. We help students find jobs, excuse me, and internships in international companies. Our program pairs each Masters of Science International Business student with a mentor from the international business community. Some of our program highlights include plus of 250 plus international executive roundtables hosted featuring CEOs, government leads, and renowned academics, 340 faculty from over 250 universities or colleges in 38 United States, in the 38 of the United States and 34 countries have participated in faculty development in international and entrepreneurship programs. More than 2,000 students have graduated from the international business program offered by CU Denver's Business School and supported by CU Denver Cyber. And more than 100 students have secured internships and employment through pathways to international internships and employment. I just wanted to give you this brief background and description about us so that you can get to know in advance what we do here, what is our focus, and what I've been working recently for the department on. So if you agree, I'm pleased to start with the set of questions
Sure.
so that we can
Thank
take
you.
advantage of the time. Thank you too. My first question for you, Peter, is what can you tell us about your professional development path? How did you start your career and how did you reach this important managerial position within your organization?
Hmm. Oh, wow. That's a trip down memory lane, as we say. To be
Okay.
honest, I started at Rutgers University. I graduated from Rutgers undergraduate, and I was a history major, and I was a study of Germanic languages and literature. And long story short, I became president of the German Association, and there was an Arab bank that was looking for people to hire, and they were looking for people not just the traditional business majors, but also language majors, people that were international. And so they ended up interviewing me in New York City for a position in their training program that was in New York and then London. And I got the job and ended up training in this international bank headquartered in Abu Dhabi. And then I was shipped over to Abu Dhabi to the headquarters. So I was in Abu Dhabi for about 3 years and did everything. It was mostly training and working in the branches. The idea was that we would go back to the United States and work for a bank that one of the shareholders owned. So that was the plan, but it didn't turn out that way, unfortunately, because there were some, let's say, issues with the bank, which I won't
Okay.
get into for this discussion. And I chose at that early stage to leave, and I ended up, I had this base knowledge of international business, having worked for in the Middle East. So I ended up getting a position working for what would become Bank of America, and I was working for. They had a very large international and factoring receivables finance business. We're one of the largest in the world.
Okay.
And so I ended up working for BOA for about, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I can't even remember how long it was. And basically, after that period, I decided to go to graduate school. And I
Okay.
chose a university not too far from Denver in Phoenix, Arizona, called Thunderbird, which is an international business school. And that's where I got my MBA from. And then from there, I was thinking, okay, I did some consulting work, but I was like, I missed the international banking. I missed the international career.
Okay.
And there was a position opening up for an international manager overseeing factoring. And I'm like, what's factoring? I knew what factoring was, quite frankly, but I was fascinated by it, and I saw an opportunity because the open account receivable finance business was very, very small at the
Yeah.
time. In 1997, it was around, maybe the industry was around 200-300 billion in size globally. And
100.
Yeah, and I got in the industry,
Okay.
and I worked for the oldest bank factoring company in the world, which was SunTrust Bank in Atlanta, Georgia,
Oh, yes.
as you
I've seen it
know.
here as well.
And that's where I got to know Bank Colombia. There was one of our correspondents, and
Okay.
then I ended up being. We were acquired, so the bank decided to sell its assets for a variety of reasons, which I won't get into. But they sold it to the largest factoring company in the world, called CIT in New York, and I worked for them altogether about 15 years between the two entities. As you know, I was on the board of directors of FCI. I was chairman of FCI and vice chairman. And when the Secretary General, and it's based here in Amsterdam, where I'm calling you in from now, when the Secretary General decided to resign, I applied for his position, and I got the job. And I moved here in 2012, and I've been here ever since, running FCI. And FCI, as you know, is a global association, an industry body, nonprofit, headquartered here, focusing on receivables and supply chain finance. So
Receivables and supply chain finance. Great.
that
It,
is our core. Yeah,
which is a great leveraging tool to enhance international business, especially in these days with lots of stress along the supply chain.
correct. It's a huge business, and more and more companies are gravitating towards receivables because 40% of the assets on average of any company are receivables. So typically it's the largest
Oh,
asset.
it's
40%,
a significant
40%
amount,
on
40%
average,
on
four
average.
zero. Yeah. So and these assets normally lie dormant. They're not liquidated. So they sit there doing nothing. And now you have the ability to liquidate them and to get working capital and to help fund the business, help fund trade. So yeah. So it's a great business. It's a great business.
No, I'm glad for that and very, very inspiring career. It made me and all the academic community believe that it's possible to get ahead in an important organization and to do something very productive for the community and for the business stakeholders.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Okay, so, and now I'm heading towards the second question, and that's be, please give me a very brief describe of how a day in your life is.
Maybe I can just talk about today, because today it's what, 7 o'clock, 6:15 or 6:20 here in Amsterdam. So
Okay,
I'm nearly towards the end of my day, but I woke up. I had a international conference with about 75 executives from one of our largest group members, Standard Chartered Bank. And we had a session for 1 hour on the benefits of utilizing our services in FCI. And then I had a second session this afternoon. That was with Asia, so Asia time, which is morning our time here in Amsterdam, night afternoon their time, and then I did Europe and Americas this afternoon with the same group. So that accounted for a couple hours. I worked on we're going through some hiring, so I worked on an executive search process. I also helped finalize some contracts. We're doing new contracts for consultants. I worked on a development bank project with the African Export-Import Bank in Africa. I worked on an issue with our accounting firm, BDO. I worked on a memo because of this war in Russia. We're having some issues with our members there. So I worked on a letter to go to them in Belarus and in Russia. I worked on, we have past dues. I worked on that. I worked on 2 events we're holding in India and Bangladesh in February. I talked with some members around the world. I mean, talk to my boss, of course. Yeah, normal day.
Normal day. That you do a lot. You do a lot on a regular day.
Busy. It's a busy job. It's a busy job for sure.
Yes. Yes. No, but that's very good. That's very good, and at least the business has been running. It's been challenging, but it's been running, and it's heading towards the future.
Indeed.
Okay. Perfect, Peter. My third question is, how did you decide to go into international business?
You know what? I knew that in high school. When I was I think I was student government president, and I organized this big trade fair at my school in honor of Year of the Child, UNICEF, and I brought all these people together, cultures. You know, it was a big event, and I was so young, and I realized that I was destined for an international career at that moment. And so I think my mother's family is Dutch, my father's family is German, and I've been traveling to Europe back and forth as well. So I've had a lot of international experience as a young child. I think that probably played a hand in it.
Yeah.
And my parents always encouraged me to study languages, so I studied 4 languages when I was young.
Oh, that's something that leverages importantly the enrolling into the international business industry. Languages is a must if you want to get ahead and to have a success.
Indeed. Yeah, you know, I always say you have to have a curiosity. You know, you can't be in this position like this or any position, international position, without being curious. So you have to have a curious nature, you know, and I think that's one of your that as a person, if you're curious and you want to explore and learn more and understand people, this type of career is
yes. As long as you are curious, you can go beyond. You can go beyond on what your boss has assigned you to do. You can even get ahead and get a better outcome when you are curious.
Indeed,
you're motivated to go a little bit beyond.
Exactly. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are okay. Your mother from one country, your father from another country.
Well, my parents are American, but their parents are from Netherlands and from Germany.
All your parents are American, and you were born here.
Yes, I was born in America. Yes. Yep. Yes,
okay.
New Jersey. Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you have already talked a little bit about this, but my fourth question is, how much travel is involved in your position?
Oh,
I guess every student feels very appalled by this question.
This job is intensely travel required because we're in 94 countries. Our members, we have stakeholders all over the world, governments that we have to visit, the central banks. Literally, since the end of the pandemic, call it in the spring of last year, literally almost every other week I've been in a different country every other week. So, but for the 2 years during the pandemic, I hardly traveled. I hardly traveled. So the pandemic era gave me a pause, which was kind of nice, quite frankly. But it's good to be back out meeting members, meeting stakeholders, meeting government officials.
Okay.
It's so necessary for our survival, our job, and good, obviously beneficial to the industry.
Yeah, and even though we have adopted a very common way to carry out meetings virtually. I guess that because of the business that you lead, it's important to meet face to face and
Yeah.
have in person, get hands on the on the country that you are doing business with.
Oh
So
yes, it's
traveling is a must.
yeah, it's just so important. I mean, virtual or 2 years of virtual calls, virtual webinars, virtual events, virtual annual meeting, virtual board meetings, virtual technical committee meetings, virtual member meetings. I mean, I think that someone told me there's an incredible um, uh, technological fatigue that's set in across the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So people want to see people face to face. So I think we're going to go back, but we'll never go back to where we were. We'll never go back to that era where, yeah, but I think it's going to be a combination, kind of like what we're doing today.
Yeah, yeah. I believe, in my opinion, the mixture is perfect. And I believe that when you are doing business, when you are trying to strengthen commercial relations, it's always important to go and sit down over the same table,
Yeah.
have a face-to-face meeting, have to get how the other party is feeling from with your customer service or with your or how, yeah, to see how important the company is for you. Yes,
Yeah. So true.
the other
So
party.
true.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a mass question that I had to do it.
Ah, no problem.
I had to do. Okay, my fifth question is, what do you advise to international business students to launch their careers, considering the challenging and dynamic labor market that we are seeing nowadays?
Um, you know, oh, this is a difficult question, but I would say that I'm a bit of a fatalist. I'm one of these people that believes that uh, the first thing you absolutely need to do is you really have to develop really strong interpersonal skills, and MBA programs do that. So working together, being together, being in group settings, it's mission critical. So when you go out in the workplace, you're in front of 5 people interviewing. It's like you're back in a small circle of friends, and you can just talk and you feel confident. And so I would put there at that at the top. Having that confidence when those meetings do arise and you had those opportunities do arise, that you are ready, that you're prepared to be your best person. Feel free to say what you need to say. Be yourself. I always say when you interview a company, when you're being interviewed by a company, you equally interview them, because not every company is a match for you, for the person.
Yes.
So it's very important that it's a two-way interview, not just a one-way interview. Um, I would say, just put yourself out there. Of course, there's so many tools that are available to kind of get your name out there, get your who you are, what you can provide and deliver to a company. It could be thought leadership articles. It could be podcasts. It could be um, just being a panelist at some events. But just getting your name out there. So it's good to be very visible, and don't be holed up. Put yourself out there.
Yes. Getting
Um,
involved. I
I'm
would
sorry.
I would say getting involved
Yeah,
and be
getting
present
involved.
on what you are trying to learn to perform.
Yes.
Being
The third,
flexible.
the third, the third thing I would absolutely say is don't allow financial incentive to be the lead of your interest in a position. Don't allow money to be your end all. Your it should be what you deliver, what you can give back. Am I capable of giving to this company? Am I capable of giving? I think I make a difference? And I've always said, if you make a difference, the money will come, the benefits will come. I know people that have taken the other route, and I don't think they have the success because they're not finding their niche. And I think if you take that approach, it's a much better approach.
I can't agree more with you, Peter. And I totally have the same belief. Many people, in my case, many people told me, or some people told me, no, you shouldn't leave a very important position in one of the banking leaders in Latin America. You shouldn't do that because you know how tough the labor market is nowadays. We are forecasting an upcoming recession, and some people told me that. But in my yeah, just to give you my opinion, I believe that you have to pursue your dreams, and that money or the finance issue, the finance point shouldn't be your ultimate goal. It's a matter of
Yeah,
serving the community, as you have said. It's a matter of
exactly.
giving back to others, and that's something that the school is
Can
very
do.
is
Yeah,
very is very focused nowadays on doing
good.
and promoting among the students. Try to give back more, and as long as you're able to give enough, the rewards will be back in
Will
your
come.
hand.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I can't agree more with you, Bill. Thank you. Okay, my next question is, what kinds of knowledge, skill set, or abilities you value the most for job applicants hoping to work with you?
Perseverance, curiosity. I would definitely put that. What are they? Curious people tend to be chock full of wisdom because they put themselves out there and they learn. And so these people that have curiosity and no job is someone can't just come into a job and do the job day one. You have to learn the job. But if someone is curious, is you know forthright and obviously capable, intelligent, um there's certain obviously minimum standards that you want to meet in any candidate, but um to differentiate those people, I would say the word curiosity, and I would say the word the self starter, someone that if you give them a job they'll do it. And I would look for, like, let's say, of course, depending on the job too, like there's certain skill sets. Each job has a different skill set, so you want to make sure that the skills of that position match the skills of that applicant, that candidate. So I would say that as well. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's perfect, and I believe that the soft skills that you have mentioned are very important nowadays because at the end of the day, the technical skills in the current world are easier to be learned. While
Yes.
soft skills such as curiosity, motivation, self-studying, and and
Yes.
and business ethics values are very important to go to
Yes.
a professional career and to get ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Okay, and now my seventh question goes more in the way of the economic outlook that you manage very, 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 very thoroughly. And it's, how are you seeing the performance, or how are you forecasting the performance of the international business with all the fears we have been listening recently about the upcoming economic recession in 2023?
Um, in general, I am in the same camp, meaning I think we are in for some headwinds, due to the fact that interest rates are now getting to a level that are getting uncomfortable, and that have economic ramifications. including the effects of inflation. However, from my perspective on the international side, I am very bullish. One, because of course our members finance trade, and the value of trade is increasing. One, because of demand, but two, because of the valuation of invoices due to inflation. There are more invoices have
Okay.
a higher value. So the point is, at least our members in our organization, and they represent something like 90% of all the cross-border activity in our industry. They're doing extremely well. We're having one of the best years ever from a performance perspective, from a risk perspective, from a volume perspective, from a funding perspective. It's been an incredible year. Next year, of course, there is going to be some effects from all of these, let's say, measures that central banks have been taking. However, I just see it temporary. I don't see this as something that's going to be long lasting. It may last maybe 2 quarters maximum, if that.
Yes.
There'll be a slowdown, but I still think, listen, we're going to hit a population of eight billion people. I don't know what the date is, when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen soon. 8 billion. When I was born, they had 3.5 billion people in the world.
Oh,
Three
what
and a half billion, and now I'm much older. Now they have 8 billion, and people need to eat. People need to buy clothes. People need to feed themselves. People need to travel to work. People need, and that need is only growing. So, from a trade perspective, I am an eternal optimist
yes.
from that perspective, and I think there's lots of value creation, even in the emerging markets in Africa and in South Asia and Central America and other, there's lots of value creation. So I just see continuous, a positive trend, even though we may have a little blip next year. I see it short term.
Yes. Very insightful answer, Peter. And I have pretty much the same insight that you have, that the recession is not taking, if it hits us, it's gonna be very moderate. It's not gonna take longer than 2 quarters,
No.
especially because Fed and central banks have been taking the right measures on the right time.
Yes.
And I totally agree with you, and hopefully it would occur that way. It would
Yeah,
occur.
I mean they had to. I mean, you look in the U.S. I mean, the real estate market, it's a complete and utter bubble. I mean, prices have increased something like 30%. You in one year, you can't have real estate prices appreciate, or an asset class like that appreciate without consequences. So it's good that there's a slowdown. It's a good thing that they're moderating the growth all different asset classes. So yeah, it's short term pain for long term gain.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I agree, since that it's a regular cycle of the economy. We
Yes.
before the pandemic, we had been growing. The world had been growing at a pretty good, at a very very decent economic growth rates. And after the pandemic, the slowdown wasn't as high as we were expecting, at least in some geographies. I guess that now is the moment so that many economies cool down, bring down a little bit the high demand that we are facing,
Yes.
and so that the inflation rates that have risen recently.
Yeah.
No,
So
perfect.
agreed. Yeah.
Very, very, very clever very clear answer, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. My next question is, what essential leadership qualities should one have when overseeing a team?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
It's what essential leadership qualities should an employee have when they are leading a team? When he or
When
she's
they're leading a team.
Yeah, when leading a team, what are the essential leadership qualities that, according to your experience,
Listening, number one, listening, making sure that, you know, people who are doing the work or the project are being heard, and that they understand that the leader has their back. The leader. I'm also one of these, let's say, maybe old school leaders that believe in leading by example. So you will see me always doing more than what they will do, at least from the perspective of uh, applying myself. And I think that trickles down in the organization. So if I think you have to lead by example, you have to show. You have to listen, and you have to show empathy. I mean, of course, when there's a policy decision taken, you can't question the policy. Meaning, if the policy is coming down from the top, you got to act. So it's difficult. Some people have a hard time accepting orders or accepting, proclamations, and so it's very important to make sure everybody's on board, making sure everybody understands the strategy, the direction. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is, your professional life is, in a way, a battlefield, and there are many battles that you'll fight, and there are some battles that you're going to want to win, and there are going to be some battles that you're not going to win. But you can't let yourself get down when you lose a battle too much, because you're just doing yourself a disservice, a disjustice. And the point is, you want to get back up and keep fighting the fight. And there are moments where you're intentionally going to lose the battle. You want to lose the battle.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, because if you win the battle, then there could be repercussions as well. This is the point. You have to. It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
And there's lots of landmines, and there's lots of. Listen, I said to someone the other day. Someone was saying, "Gee, you've been in this job for 10 years." Because I never thought you'd last that long. I'm like, it is hard, because in a network like us, an association, you're just dealing with humans, and humans have egos, and humans have fears, and humans have.
It's like perfect, and we make mistakes.
Yeah, yeah, and the point is, you deal with every kind of person constantly, so you have to constantly adjust yourself and deal, but at the end of the day, be authentic, and be yourself, and but apply yourself, and be and show empathy, and be a good listener. Those are the skill sets I've abided by in my career.
Yeah, good listener, show empathy, and be prepared to setbacks.
Exactly.
Be prepared to setbacks. Yeah, and I have pretty much the same, or I agree with you on the point that in life we're not always supposed to lose, but losses are important. Losses are important
Yeah.
to
You
become
learn.
better, to
You learn.
enhance certain procedures that
Yes.
you weren't doing correctly, and to get a further scope
Yes.
your professional. And it doesn't only apply to your professional life. It
Yeah.
applies to every aspect of it.
Yeah. Exactly. I totally agree with you. Completely. Yes.
Being prepared to setbacks, to drawbacks. It's very important to become a good leader.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Then question is, do you have any mentors on the way to your current position? What did you learn from them?
Well, I mean, mentors are, well, it's like walking down the yellow brick road. You're going to meet the lion, you're going to meet the scarecrow, you're going to meet the Tin Man, you're going to meet all the characters, and each one is going to instill wisdom, and especially those, of course, that resonate the most to you. You'll always meet your mentor, and they're indispensable. I mean, the people that I think about who actually are on my wall back here are people that had a very significant influence in my life. I have pictures of them because I always want to remember them, always want to
Yeah,
thank them,
the
because
advices, the
they
advices.
gave me that knowledge, that wisdom, that capability of taking a step further, being able to not have fear, being very uh, uh, careful or thought provoking, or whatever the lesson I learned from them, and whatever the issue is, or just general learning. Yeah, I have a fair number of mentors, and your career can't be your career without them.
Yes. Yes, mentors are very important. And it's very good that it's a very good practice that you have when taking when keeping pictures of these mentors that you have in the past you had in the past so that you can remind their advices easier,
Oh yes.
keeping them in mind and very, very, very insightful answer as well. Okay, and my last question, Peter, is from my previous job as a commercial manufacturing manager in Colombia, I had the opportunity to learn about the organization you lead a little bit. Now I'm getting a deeper knowledge. And some of the financial instruments you promote to leverage the working capital for international trade. What has happened recently after the pandemic, supply chain shocks, high inflation rates, and so on? I know we talk a little bit about this, but just to wrap up, what would be your insight about this question, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, if you took me back in time to 2018 and said that we would be through a trade war, we would a major trade war, we would be through the worst pandemic in 100 years, and then followed by that a land war in Europe, I would be laughing in your face. So, the truth is, it's almost like we're numb. We've gone through so much, and it's been such a difficult and extremely transformational period. And in a way, we're on the other side. Of course, the war is still raging on. Pandemic still continues to cause problems in certain countries, and but definitely there's this feeling of returning to some form of normalcy. Um, from the perspective of the industry, international finance in general, I mean, we're having the best year ever. I mean, this is the best year ever in our industry, in the history of our industry. The growth rate is the highest it's ever been, both domestic and international. Um, so I mean, it's I've never seen anything quite like it. But then again, after the pandemic, where everything was closed, everything was shut down, everyone was hunkering down. Um, of course, there's going to be a rebound. Of course, there's going to be a huge demand for products and services. Of course, there's going to be bottlenecks because of the pandemic. Of course, there's going to be inflation because everyone wants products. It's just logical. And so, we just have to kind of get through the trud these difficult, let's say, barricades,
Okay.
that are natural barricades. They're natural that they occurred, with the exception of the war. With the exception of the war, that was not natural, and that has been extremely painful, especially for those here in Europe. Especially for those, depending on food coming from Ukraine. Um, yeah, there's nothing natural about it, and but so the war has had an effect on business. COVID has had an effect on business, but now we're kind of seeing some, a return to normalcy, and I think 2023 will be that year of return to normalcy. I think the war is going to end next year. I think inflation is obviously coming slowly to a close, or at least getting back to some normal levels. Um, And I imagine that demand will still be demand. There's a lot of money in the market. There's a lot of money in consumers'
Yeah.
hands still. I see that in my figures on past dues and on dilution and things like that. I see that we're at historic lows, meaning we're at I've never seen figures so robust, so strong. And the only answer to that is people have money. So, times are still good. There are certainly, regions of the world like in Africa and South Asia, even China is going through a challenging time right now. I mean, we'll get through this, but yeah. I think I see 2023, even though there's recession coming, I see some return to normalcy. I feel it. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and very, 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 very important point that you mentioned it, and I hadn't ever thought that way, that as long as the demographics are rising or have been rising significantly in the previous decades, the world is supposed to demand more food, demand more clothing, more traveling, more supplies in general, so that it's the natural growth of the
Yeah.
economy and of the consumption trends.
Yeah.
Consumption generates inflation. Inflation generates somewhat a little bit somewhat losing of purchasing power, but it's a natural of society growth. So at the end of the day, it's not that bad. And I agree with I believe it's better to be positive than negative, and it's better to see the glass half full instead of half empty. And
Well, what's interesting, really, talking about the future, the biggest challenge that I see is this return to normalcy. The return to normalcy from the perspective of traveling for work, to attend conferences, to meet clients internationally. That's going to happen, but you have the fear of another pandemic, and then you have the fear of or the concerns about the environment and this whole ESG evolution, which
oh
is
yeah.
really starting to trickle down into even our industry in receivables finance. I just wrote an article in our newsletter just a few weeks ago about this. What our organization's role should be in encouraging our members to basically be very mindful of the environment, be very mindful of social aspects and governance in protecting people, protecting the environment. So I think this is the unknown. This is this ESG slash kind of the tail end of the pandemic. This is going to be interesting to see what happens from that perspective.
Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, the environmental part shouldn't be put aside, since
Yeah.
it's gaining lots of relevance. And yes, no, I believe that your industry and your organization is doing a lot for the local and for the international business community, as invoices have been rising. Companies need liquidity to remain financial solvent and financial robust. Companies need to liquidate these invoices. And I didn't know, it's a very good figure that you brought up about that. The 40% of companies' current assets are parked
Total
in
assets.
the
Total
of
assets.
total assets are parked right there in the inventory side, which is not good.
Receivables. Yeah, receivables.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Sorry, in the receivables, and I guess it's the best way to leverage working capital when interest rates are high.
Yeah.
So leveraging your current daily operation is very clever through your invoices, through
Yeah,
receivables.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So no, it's so even though there's some barriers and obstacles down the road. I mean, I'm really optimistic. I think I estimate that the industry is going to grow. We're at around 5+ billion, excuse me, trillion dollars. We're going to grow to 10 trillion, so double in the
Yeah.
next 10 years. By 2030, we'll be a $10 trillion industry, which is about 10% of global GDP. So it's a big It's a big step for us. We're going from, I don't want to say an infant, but it's an infant to an adolescent. We're not an adult yet as an industry, as a global industry, but we're definitely going to that next step.
To the next step.
Yes, yes,
No,
for
I'm
sure.
glad. I feel glad your business have marked a very have reached a landmark these days in results, in
Yeah.
disbursements, in new factors along the globe.
Yes.
Hopefully, we all the world, we all the yeah, all the community can go through the 2023 moderate recession, hopefully, and that we can have a very brighter, a more brighter
Yeah.
for all
Fig-
the economic growth, for all the economic industries, and the students can get enough chances in the labor market when we are done.
Yes. Hopefully.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, for your
Okay, one.
insights. I'm very grateful.
No
That's
problem.
the best. That's the best outline or wrap up that I can give you now.
Fine. Thank you
You
very much. Thanks for
know,
the opportunity. It's great seeing you again.
yeah, no, it's great seeing you. See you again. It's great
Okay.
to touch base again. And we are here in Colorado. Whenever you pass by along this region,
Uh,
you are very welcome to come to our school
Thank you.
to receive your alignment because it's I guess that your experience, your background is very useful for our academic processes.
Oh, it's very kind of you. Thank you so much, Juan. It's great to see you and good luck with your program. Keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, and I wish you happy holidays as well. Happy Christmas,
Same.
Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas to you too.
you, your family, and keep safe.
Thank you. Take care.